And now, the survival show which once survived recording an intro while hungover. In this episode, we sit down with Michael Jordan, once again, of a bee-friendly company. Usually, Michael tells us all about beekeeping, but instead, we're going to talk about perhaps one of the best things you can make with honey. Mead. Sweet, sweet mead. Howdy, and welcome to In the Rabbit Hole's Urban Survival Podcast. This is episode number 188. I'm your host, Aaron, and you are in the rabbit hole. Safe and sound. Michael Jordan, welcome back to In the Rabbit Hole, dude.
Hey, man, I'm always glad to talk to you, dude, man. We were just talking about rabbits and stuff, and I'm always glad to talk to you.
Likewise, man. And it was funny, right before you contacted me recently, I was just thinking about you. I was like, man, I need to call Michael. I need to catch up with him. I need to see how he's doing and get him back on for another show. And lo and behold, ding, my inbox goes off, and it's there you are. So we're going to talk about mead today, and that's exciting because it involves alcohol, one of my favorite pastimes.
Yeah, I was just thinking about you guys and about having some, when I talked to you the one time, I was up in my retreat, and I was having a great time on my birthday, and I was drinking mead. And now I've got my permits in the work to come out with the underground meadery that we're getting ready to open up a location in Cheyenne, Wyoming to sell a good hearty mead. And I was like, man, I had such a good time. I might as well catch a buzz and call the cat back and have
that's
a good
cool.
time. But yeah, here recently, man, I've been pumping out, and I have about 48 different recipes now that we've been working off of. And I thought I'd just kind of share some of that about the home brewing experience on a level that's more magical, in my opinion, and a little bit of Viking lore and medieval and aspects, and just kind of get back to some good brewing aspects, man, for a fine product.
Mm-hmm. So let's start there, because I actually don't know the difference between beer and mead. So what's the difference, just so we can kind of get a baseline here? What's going on?
Well, here's how the philosophy goes, is that back in the early days, people that were very poor drank grog. And grog was the fruit and vegetables of the kitchen. Nowadays, we call it pruno in prison. And basically, it's whatever you had left over in the kitchen, you put in a bucket or a pail. You threw a couple, you threw loaves of bread in it or whatever, which was the yeast, and it fermented, and you drank it. And the alcohol content was probably around 2 to 4%. That was very low, but it had an alcohol content. And it was all based on that, that water, if it wasn't purified, you couldn't drink it. And when you made alcohol, you were able to drink it. So people made lots of different types of alcohol. And grog was like the cheapest way that you knew that you were getting a pasteurized or purified water source, that it was the bacteria and stuff was turning into an alcohol unless you had a bad batch. So grog was on the littlest level. Then they came out with the working man's ale, and it was for the people that meant steel, the farmhands, the sailors. It was based on grains and barleys, hops, and it was a fermented drink that was better to taste. The alcohol content rose from about anywhere from 4 to about 9%. It was a tavern drink. Most people paid to enjoy it and the hospitality of the tavern. And then you got to wines, and wines were by the landowners. They owned the land, they owned the orchards, the grapes, the fruit trees. And you would press the fruits down, and you would ferment those to make the flavored wines. And its alcohol content ranged anywhere from about 9% to about 16%. And, that's everything from your port wines, and then you get into differentials of different types of grapes to your champagnes. It was more of an exotic drink. And then we got into meads, which was controlled by the king. The king controlled the bees. He told what fields got pollinated, what bakeries got the sweet honey, which churches got the waxes from the candle, and it was based on taxes. And whatever was left over afterwards from the sale and harvest of the honey was given to the king to make mead. And its alcohol content ranged anywhere from the lowest end of 12% all the way up to about 23% because of the type of sugar content it was. Now, when you talk about beers, you're talking about boiling water. When we boil water, we know it purifies it, and that was kind of one reason why people drink ales and different beers. Microbrewing is huge and has been huge for the last, I would say, 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
People coming out with their own microbreweries of anything from sour beers to Hefeweizens to IPAs to all different kinds of stouts. And each one of those levels even has a different flavor, different context, different color, that people have been very broadened in the micro beer industry. And when you boil the water, like we said, it makes it so you can drink it. Because back then in the day, you couldn't drink the water unless it was boiled. And who wanted to just drink, hot, warm water all the time? So they fermented it to different flavorings. So what I've come up with is I've taken kind of that model, and there are like tons of different types of meads. Mead is made from honey, water, and yeast. That is the basic formula for any type of mead. For 1 gallon of mead, you're going to use roughly 3 pounds of honey. You're going to get a brewer's yeast, and you just mix that all up, and it makes a mead. It's going to be very good to drink. It's going to have a high alcohol content. It takes a little bit longer to ferment depending on what you do. But there are so many varieties of it, from capsules, which are the use of peppers, that you can use black peppers all the way to habaneros, and getting a spicy hot mead. There are pomels, and they're made with grapes, where you're juicing grapes and then adding it with the honey to get a grape-flavored mead. And then, like all wines that are made from grapes, there's the variety of all the grapes that go with that type of honey. You have marmels, and those are fruit meads. You have stone meads that are made with hardened seeds or nuts. The variety of spices, to the types of fruits, to the types of flowers, to everything. And then honey in general, man, every flower has its own nectar flow. So you just don't get honey. You get Monoluca honey from New Zealand that has medicinal healing powers. You get Himalayan honey that has hallucinogenic values. You can get massive sweet clover honey from some areas, macadamia nut out of the macadamian fields of Hawaii, ras flower. I mean, every flower makes a honey. And even some honeys make people sick because it was used in warfare, that certain flowers give you dysentery. So we would put honey out in a field when we were going to war, and if the invaders came in and go, look, we're going to steal their honey, it would make them weak and sick so we could in turn attack them. So you really kind of have to watch some of the honeys that you use even. And thistle honey has a numbing aspect for your mouth, like ambisol. So when you base some of those honeys with some superior plants and you turn it into an alcohol, you have a far superior product when it comes to putting on the bender, man. That sitting down, drinking a horn like a Viking, and getting back to the old lore, or sitting down with a really robust drink at a wedding party and enjoying it with family and friends, with something that I make some of my needs. You'll never get them anywhere in the world other than if you sit at my table and drink them and enjoy them, because of the diversity of honey and the plants that I use. And there's other people that do the same thing. And then there are some meaderies out there, and it's becoming a bigger venue for people to go and try meads, because it's not like you're going to go to a bar and oh, we're going to have some beers and stuff. Most of the time, you're going to go to a meadery. You're going to spend about 2 hours. You're going to try a couple different meads that they have. It's like almost, I think it's way superior than go to a winery. And back in the late 80s, early 90s, the train runs through California for the wineries was huge. I just think this is becoming a far superior product, that people are going all the way back to the old ways of making the first liquor ever known to man. That Mead was the first liquor that was ever made because of how it was made. And I just think that the superior product that people are going back to, taking the microbrew theory that small batches, vast variety is so much better. And it's just been, I think it's just been fascinating. I've been brewing mead now since 1991 is when I made my first batch of mead. And in 2000, I got so adept in it. That's how I got into beekeeping, was that I needed great, fabulous honey to make a superior product of the gods.
So what's the flavor profile like? Like what does basic mead taste like without all the extra stuff? If it's just straight kind of the most basic form of mead.
Sunshine in a bottle. That's the only way I can really describe it. It's if you have 1 gallon of water and you use 1 pound of honey, you're not going to get as bold flavors from it. The alcohol content is not going to be as tall. If you put 4 pounds of honey in with it, you're going to have a sweeter taste, lots of alcohol, a little bit thicker, like a cognac. Basic mead, I think, has a distinct sweet flavored taste from it. It's like drinking flowers and sunshine. See, about the only way I can describe it. It's golden color, smells like alcohol, but when you drink it, it's a very candy bar sweetness that you're getting into. That it's something that you want to drink a nice mouthful. You don't really want to sip it, but you don't want to slam it. It has a very good hearty taste. The only way I can really describe it is sunshine in a bottle.
So is it heavy like a dark beer, like a Guinness, or is it
I would go with the Hefeweizen, or a nice IPA, right? You're going to get an IPA that has a heavy hop taste to it.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a good wine with a hard, sweet flower taste behind it. Have you ever, as a kid, picked honeysuckle off the ground and sucked the nectar out of the honeysuckle?
Oh, yeah.
Same thing. That's basically what you're going to be tasting on a larger mouth scale. It's like I said, you get that sweet, sunshiny taste in your mouth and your palate. It's not bitter. It's refreshing. It's a good, clean alcohol buzz. I have a lot of people that drink it that they can't really fathom how the description is. It's clean. It is so clean. Like I said, it's just basically a nice raw sugar, not a non-processed sugar. It's purely raw, and it's just good, clean water with a raw product. So it even has a cleaner taste, a cleaner alcohol buzz that goes with it. It's just a really supreme product.
Michael, let's take a quick break. Hey, listener, do you get at least $3 of value out of ITRH every month? Well, you should see what we give to the Armada members. Check it out today by visiting itrh.net. Members get access to episodes a day early. And when you join, you'll receive an invitation to the secret ITRH Armada Facebook group so you can chat about survival with myself and other Armada members all day long. Get a free copy of the book, Owning Your Survival, so you can have a plan and do it right. Access to our famous Bob and emergency kits on-demand class. Make that perfect bag. Learn what to obsess over and, more importantly, what not to obsess over. Our insane ammo inventory spreadsheet. You'll finally have instant access to knowing what you've got on hand at any time. Access to every episode ever produced by ITRH, including one with a famous knife maker, which was never aired. And that's just to name a few things. Remember to visit itrh.net to get more benefit and help the show stay safe and sound, which helps you stay safe and sound. Now, back to today's guest. So what is the process of making it like? Like, is it basically the same equipment and the same setup as making beer?
Yes, you can use the same beer making equipment you have. I teach a class called Coffee Pot 30-Minute Mead, and that we use a coffee pot. You just run hot water in the coffee pot. A coffee pot usually has about anywhere 3 to 7 cups of hot water. It's enough to get the water warm enough that when you add it to the honey, it dissolves the honey. So we do a gallon of mead in 30 minutes. And if you go to a dollar store, you pick up a gallon jug of water and you pick up a bag of balloons. And then you're going to go to a local brew store, Amazon Prime, and you're going to order a champagne yeast. And yeast, as you get more advanced, all these other things change. But the basic formula is a gallon of water, 3 pounds of honey, and a good champagne yeast. So you're just going to take your coffee pot to warm up a couple cups of water. You dump the honey in your jug. You add the hot water to the jug and swish it down until it dissolves. You fill the jug completely up to where there's almost like 2 inches from the top to give it room for fermentation. You let it sit for 24 hours so the brew that you just made will come to room temperature. You dump the yeast packet in it and put a balloon over the top of it so no other particles come into it to get different fermentation flavors or spoilage.
Mm.
And within about 48 hours, that balloon's going to blow up into a big punching ball balloon because of the activation from fermentation. And in 30 days, you can take that balloon off. The mead's going to clear up where it looks like a good crystal clear wine, where it looks through and you pour yourself a glass and you're drinking sunshine out of a bottle. And it only takes you about 30 minutes to do this, running the water through the coffee pot, shaking it, filling it up it doesn't take, once you get skilled with it, you can turn out 2 to 3 gallons in an hour of many different kinds. So if you're doing 4 gallons in an hour, you could have a regular mead, you could have a Boston cream pie where you're using bananas and some lactose fermentation. You can make a apple braggot or using apple juice and grains. And you can do all that in an hour and have three gallons made of basically 6 different types of meads if you want in an hour's time. It takes nothing to do this type of fermentation for a good, clean product.
So that doesn't sound very involved at all. Because I have a brother-in-law who's big into brewing his own beer, and that seemed, I only spoke to him briefly about it. Brewing my own beer is not something I've ever really gotten into. And the process seemed a little more involved, but this seems pretty simple. Is it? I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a very simple process. The best way I can describe making mead is that you and your buddies went to the public swimming pool, and you were holding on the side of the swimming pool in the shallow end where you could bob off the bottom. You held on the side. You felt pretty comfortable. As you progressed, you were swimming along with everybody else. You were underneath the water more. As you got better involved, you're jumping off the high dive, doing flips and backflips. As you got older and more progressed, you're scuba diving in the ocean. And that's the way I describe making mead, is that your simple processes are this coffee pot 30-minute mead where we introduce you to making a superior product in 30 minutes with just water, honey, and yeast. And then as we get going into teaching you how to do more, we teach you what the different yeasts do. Some yeasts make more flavorful fruit flavors. Some of them bring out more of a wood taste. Some of them give a champagne bubbly effect. Some of them give a dry Ralph's effect. So you'll find out what different yeast that you want to use. Then as we go through, we talk about the different types of honey. Some honeys are extremely sweet with sugar percentages up to 30 or 86%. Some are a bitter honey. Some are darker honeys, like if you get honey from buckwheat, it's going to be a dark honey. If you get honey that's from sweet clover or cotton, I'm a big fan of cotton honey. It's going to be more of a caro syrup looking, a clearer honey. So you're going to get to even the different shades of honey, the different sugar contents of it. And then it goes even to water, that you'll end up finding out which waters work best. So sometimes you're going to find out that this water from, Avion works really good for what I'm doing. Or I personally go up to my retreat in the mountains where I have fresh, sweet spring water that I pump straight out, where it's not filtered, it's not anything, and I use it for some of my mead making. So like I said, it's swimming in the shallow end a little bit, where you get to learn to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends how deep you want to get involved. If you want to go from making gallons jugs to where you're making 120 to 250 gallons at a pop, that's like buying the scuba tanks and really getting into brewing stuff. So, that's just basic mead making. We haven't talked about like making pawpaw fruit meads, or we haven't talked about getting one of my favorite ones. I shipped in macadamia nut honey, macadamia nuts. I blanch the nuts up. I boil the nuts. You get the oil content, kind of the big flavor in the water. And then I use it with macadamia nut honey. So it's an all macadamia nut mead. Has a nut taste to it. Has the macadamia kind of black flavor of eating macadamia nut. All in a nice sweet mead. So, I mean, it just depends how advanced you want to get into it. I mean, the simplest, I think, hard liquor I've ever made is from apple juice. You just go buy apple juice at the store, throw yeast in it, put a balloon on it, and in 40 days you're drinking it, and it makes, a cider, a hard cider. And then if you're more in depth, you get into that, you're going to ice stuff, getting the water content out, bringing the alcohol content up. You're going to add maybe some cranberry juice to your apple juice. It's the same thing with meads, but the sugar content from the honey is so strong that boosts your alcohol content up anywhere from 15 to almost 18%, depending on what type of honey you use, how long you're going to ferment age.
So how does somebody go about figuring, like, I guess just to start with basic ingredients, you were talking about all the different honeys. And since you are the bee whisperer, that makes sense where you know how to get that stuff. And we can get into the sexier honeys here in a bit. But I guess starting off, what is somebody looking for? Like, if I go out tomorrow, I'm like, this is amazing. I'm going to go get some champagne yeast and some honey. But let's start with the honey. Where do I figure out what honey to even start with?
Well,
like, do I just go to the grocery store and just grab stuff off the shelf?
There you're talking. If you're just the basic guy and you say, I'm just going to do this, I'm just going to make mead, so I'm going to go to the grocery store. Honey off the shelf at the grocery store is going to cost you about $2, maybe $3 a pound. They sell them, I think, in anywhere from 5-pound to 15-pound pails, I guess. And you're going to buy 3 pounds of honey. If you buy 5 pounds of honey, right, you should learn the variance. I would never put more than 4 pounds per gallon of water. So the basic guy, if he's just going to go to the shelf and buy honey, he's going to buy, 5 pounds of honey at about $15. It's not going to be too expensive, but you can't always guarantee that honey is going to be a raw sourced honey, the filtration values and stuff. So that, when you go to look at honey, the first thing I tell people is if you want to buy it off the store shelf and you're going to try it, this is a good way to try it in a small batch to see if you like it. Because when it comes to a good, fine, raw honey product, you're going to be going to a local beekeeper. You're going to be saying, hey, man, I want something good, raw. Who cares if it has some bee parts in it, some wax in it? Because when I go to filter it through a coffee strainer, all that stuff's left behind anyway. And I'm making alcohol, so it's very antiseptic. It's going to kill anything that's in it anyway. But I'm looking for good raw honey because I'm not boiling my water like you do with beer.
Huh.
Right? I'm not boiling my honey unless I'm making a brochet, which is a whole different, more advanced type of mead making where you boil your honeys for caramelization to get different tastes and colors from the same honey.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time I say you want some of the medical value of the honey. You don't want to ever really cook it hard. And you should find something that's local at a good price. That I think anywhere, if you're going to buy honey, if you're buying it at about $8 to $12 a pound, and you know the beekeeper that you respect, and that he's doing a good holistic job, or he's a good reliable beekeeper that you know he's not back flavoring his honey, or he's not harvesting too early where the water contents are up. If you're getting a good raw source of honey, you just tell the guy, man, I'm making mead. So it doesn't have to be like super clear. It can have some wax in it. It doesn't have to be really, something that you're going to put on a 4-H shelf for the county fair. I'm looking for about, 15 pounds of honey. 15 pounds is roughly going to make me 3 batches of mead. Because if I go 3, 6, 9, 12, I'm going to get about 5 good batches of mead from about 15 pounds. That's enough to kind of weed me out. And if I'm buying honey at 15-pound level, I'm probably going to be spending about, I'd say about $30 to $60 on honey. And I think that's a probably good price to get honey at, unless you're buying off the store shelf and it's probably been heat pasteurized so it doesn't crystallize. It might have some corn sugars and stuff for some back flavoring to make it sweeter. But those are all sugars. You're using the sugar to make alcohol in the first place. But when I'm doing mine, I'm looking for the more medical and I would say medicinal values of some of the honeys that I'm using. So a good batch of mead, your water. If you're going to buy water, depends how extravagant you're going to buy your water from. I've seen some bottled water, man, that's pretty outrageous to buy. I can't believe some people pay money from an Icelandic thing from Finland at $40 for a 75 milliliter bottle of water. But it's supposed to be some of the best drinking water you'll ever drink. The elite drink it. Me, I'm hiking up in the hills and I'm using a quick water pump and I'm pumping water out of a good sweet stream that I'm using, because once the alcohol turns into it, it's going to be something that's alcohol is going to kill everything in it anyway. And I want some of the natural contents and stuff in it anyway when I'm brewing.
So is that why you don't boil the water, since it's got a high antiseptic value anyway?
Yeah. I'm not looking, the water that I'm getting is drinkable water. It's not like I had to boil the water to drink it. Mm-hmm. That's why, like I told you, when beers was originally made, is that you boiled the water to kill everything in it. So you didn't get dysentery. You didn't get stomach viruses and stuff. The water should be drinkable water. But the reason I really don't boil anything is because I want the enzymes and the pollens and the medical values of the honey to still be in the mead. And I want some of that content and stuff in my meads that I drink. Like if I'm getting Monoluca honey from New Zealand that has some extremely good aging and cancer-solving properties that they've been finding out, if I put that in my mead, my body thins it because of the alcohol, and it gets to my body structure faster. Not only am I catching the buzz, but I'm introducing some good medical value. If I'm adding plants such as ginseng, guarara, there's just so many different things. If you're in Colorado, you know how to infuse honey with some cannabis. You're going to be getting some of those medical values in your meads as you drink them. So there's some reasons why I'm not completely heating it, and I'm using more of a paint mixer method of making sure my honeys are blanched out with the warmer water, because I don't want to lose any of that stuff in my mead. I think it brings out some more of that sunshine flavor when I'm not killing those things. So yeah, honey can be cheap right off the shelf, or you could be shipping in periwinkle honey like I do from Ireland, right, where you're going to be paying $45 a pound for the honey to be shipped in. So it just depends on what you're looking for.
So you said you, like in a small batch, you'll add, say, 3 pounds of honey to 1 gallon of water. How much mead does that end up making?
Well, if you're looking at it, you're making a gallon jug, which is roughly 4 wine bottles, give or take. You're definitely going to get 3 good hearty wine bottles out of it. So if you're just doing a basic mead, it's going to cost you around $25 to make, because let's say we're buying honey at $8 a pound. 3 pounds of that's $24. The yeast packet's going to cost me around 30 cents. And if I'm just using tap water, I'm talking another 30 cents. So basically, for a balloon, the honey and the water, I'm looking at about $25 for a gallon. And if you go to a store and you're going to buy wine off the shelf, a bottle of wine is going to cost you anywhere. I'm talking like cheap wine. If you're going to buy it, it's going to cost you about $11, $12 a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
So if I buy 3 bottles at $12, I'm looking at $36 for just a cheap, I don't know, Zinfandel. Or if I'm buying a cheap 15 bottle of Zinfandel, 3 bottles of that is under, $60. Where if I'm making a good mead, right, I'm making that at almost, half that cost. So $25 makes a mead, or I'm going to buy 3 bottles of wine for $12, and that pays $36. So I'm getting a better product from home of what I probably even want to blend out and make than buying 3 bottles of wine off the shelf at a liquor store.
That's pretty cool. That's a lot. That's a lot cheaper. And I'm glad you brought up the yeast. That was going to be another question as far as, so you said it was champagne yeast. Is that pretty much the same thing? Like you could just walk into a grocery store and buy champagne yeast off the shelf, or is this something special that you've got to?
Well, it's a brewer's yeast.
Okay.
I've had people make meads with just regular bread yeast. Your alcohol content's going to be about 9%. It's not going to have some big busty flavors from it as a brewer's yeast will. I mean, there's vast amounts of brewer's yeast. I think champagne yeast, due to the fact that it makes a very crystal product, the yeast survives at a higher alcohol content. It's going to already bring my meads up at about 15 to almost 18% easily, because it's a champagne yeast. It's made for a hardier. The yeast lives in a hardier strain of when the alcohol already sets in, that it doesn't suffocate itself out. I think it does a quicker fermentation. Some people are blending 2 or 3 yeasts together to get their flavors of a more fruit taste, a sparkling effect with the bubbles. I mean, and some yeast are extremely expensive. Or, my favorite yeast pack is basically the Red Star champagne yeast in a yellow packet, 5 grams, right? If you're going to pay for under $1. So you're going to get 5 grams of good champagne yeast for under $1 that could brew from 1 gallon to 5 gallons, just that one pack. Right. So I always just dump 1 pack in my gallon jug, set it to the side, check it. I mean, there's, like I said, the more in depth you get in it, you're going to be taking your specific gravities, your temperatures, you're going to do your site controls of like coloration and clarity. I mean, those all come with more advanced, but just a guy that says, Michael Jordan says to make mead. So I went to the dollar store and I bought this gallon jug of water and some balloons, just like you said. I went to my local brew store and I got this Red Star champagne yeast, and I went down to my bread basket or my farmer's market and I bought 3 pounds of honey. Right? The honey cost me roughly $8 a pound, so I spent $24 on the honey. I spent $1 on the gallon jug of water, so I'm at $25. The balloons cost me another $1, so now I'm at $26. And my packet of yeast cost me $1, so I'm at $27. And when I go home, I just pour 5 cups of water in my coffee pot. I dump all the gallon of water into a pitcher so my jug's clear. And I just pour my 3 pounds of honey in, pour my hot water from the coffee pot, shake it like a paint mixer so it dissolves all the honey with the water. And then I dump the water from out of the pitcher back into the jug so it's about 2 inches from the top. And I let it sit for 24 hours so it gets the temperature of the room. I open up my champagne packet of yeast. I dump it in. I give it just a little swish so the yeast kind of swishes in the mix of the sugar water that I've made, and I put my balloon on it. And I'll come back in about 24 hours, and the balloon will already start to rise. And within I would say 5 days, that balloon's big, almost completely full where it's going to bust. And usually in about 15 days, the balloon seems pretty steady. At about 21 days, you can see the balloon starting to like decrease a little bit. And in about 30 days, you can see there's no really bubbles coming up the side of the jug. The balloon's not really growing or decreasing. The mead's starting to look a lot clearer and not as cloudy, and the yeast is starting to sit on the bottom. And I know that if I just let it sit for maybe 4 or 5 days, I can probably drink it because it's made alcohol. So it doesn't really take too much to do it except for your time and about $26. And you can make a gallon of mead, which is roughly a little bit more than 3 bottles of wine. And that's each bottle of wine usually is about 750 milliliters. So you're going to get, about 3 good strong bottles and maybe a little residual, because once the yeast dies, it makes a yeast cake on the bottom of your jug that, you can make pizza with. Use that yeast as a pizza dough or something.
So what is there value in letting it sit longer than what sounded like about 35 days? I mean, if you let it sit for 60 days, does it get any better, or is it just kind of done right at about 30, 35, 40 days?
Aging's always superior, right? They say, wine ages and it tastes better with age, right? Meats change. Some of their flavors can even change over a year's time period, up to 5 years. I don't think anymore after 5 does the flavor change. It's just like, you can make some of your meads, and when they're done fermenting, I pour some of them in some, have some old Jack Daniels wood barrels, right? So I can get that whiskey wood taste. So I can pour some of my meads in those barrels and then even let them age in a wood barrel to get a wood bourbon flavor. Ooh. Infused with the mead.
You're making me thirsty.
Right? Well, it's supposed to make you thirsty. I mean, I'm drinking an apple braggot right now while we talk. It's an apple juice and a grain mix that's been aged in a wood barrel. So it has a whiskey kind of beer flavor to it as I drink it. But aging the mead, I think if you can wait and have your mead aged for a year, you're going to have a totally different taste than when you first got it. And I think it brings out more of the finer textures of that honey that you use. So I'm a big fan of using cotton honey. It has a high sugar content. It's very clear. It makes a good champagne looking like mead. People really enjoy it when you pop it, and the smell of it's really floral. So I really like that. And if it's just a plain mead, I like good cotton honey. And the one bad thing about it is some of your cotton honeys come from GMO cropping. So that's another thing, you have honey, is its own ball game. It's not like buying processed corn sugar that people used to brew beer with. Right? It's some people want really holistic, natural, non-GMO honey. Some people are looking for a strong sugar content. Some people are looking for a darker, more sour wood. Makes a great honey. Tilapia trees make a great honey. Eucalyptus makes a good honey. And those are all trees, so they're more of on a sour based end because they're a tree floral. A lot of your ground flowers. The largest honey producer in North America comes from sunflower seeds. That South Dakota is the largest producer of honey of any place in the United States. So, it produces a good honey. But, it just depends on what you're looking for flavor. And everybody has their own flavor. Some people like the carob syrup looking clear honey. And some people like the dark honey. Me, I'm in between. I like a little amber color to mine. I don't like it just clear. I like to have some texture and some color when I do some stuff with it. But that's just because I'm looking for some different kinds of coloring in my meads when I make them. Because sometimes I like to throw off people what they're looking at and what they're doing. Because I make a Belgian white chocolate mead that looks kind of like a dirty color. Like, oh man, this is like you just dump the dish soap out of the sink in this bottle, right? And when you smell it, and you're like, whoa, dude, this smells like rubbing alcohol. Then you drink it, and it's white Belgian chocolate, and it totally throws you completely off. You're like, holy crap, this is really good. Please don't let my wife know I'm drinking some girly drink.
Yeah, especially my wife, man. The ribbing and punching would never end.
Right? Yeah, you're drinking a girly girl drink. No, this is mead.
Mm-hmm.
Vikings drink this to the death, babe. This is what they drink out of a horn, right? We drink this mead out of the skulls of our enemies, for God's sakes. Can you just pour me a little more of that chocolate?
Right. Yeah, I think that's the point which I would catch a bunch of crap. My wife who drinks straight tequila.
Yeah. But the buzz is clean. I've been to a couple mead making parties where I teach mead. We sample, we give out horns for people to take home. And, by the end of the night, everybody's got a pretty good buzz going on. Some people like myself fall out, snore. And then, you wake up the next day, right? And the buzz was so clean, there's never really a hangover.
Mm-hmm.
You're not having that, I should eat a greasy breakfast type feeling. It's the only way I can describe it. It's very clean. It seems to be a very clean, hypnotic to it. That's I really can't describe unless people drink mead. That once you get to drinking mead, I've changed people completely from making home brewing to mead making because you can do it simple, very simple. I can turn out, I'll turn out 40 gallons, different kinds of mead, and then I can really get in depth and I make 2 or 3 batches of 55-gallon drums. It's going to take a couple months to almost a year to finish off. And then I got some meads I can try and drink, and then I've got this really good one that's about 50 gallons, and I'm going to be aging now for another year. And it's going to be some 22%. It's going to be a nice tasting mead. And then I've had all these others that I could drink while I was doing some time. So they really like that, because when you brew beer, the beer sequence is basically, when it's done brewing, I'm going to rack it and I let it sit for a couple weeks, and then we're drinking it. Because it's not really going to change. It's going to either go sour as we age it, or it's going to lose some of its flavor, some of its carbonation, some of its texture. Mead doesn't do that. Mead gets better with age like wine does. My program is 52 meads at the mead every Friday. So I brew 1 gallon of mead every Friday, and I get 52 gallons of mead in a year. And that's 52 different meads. So I have all different colors, tastes, flavors, and styles, everything from putting chia seeds in it to where it floats and bursts in your mouth, to the one I make for Jack Spirko's 9 Mile Farm event, where we put gold flakes in it and stuff for Grendel's Tears, because it's a salty caramel mead with gold flakes in it, reminding you of Beowulf and the death of a god. So it's 52 meads a year, and then I'll throw in, I have 2 55-gallon batches that I do at the time. And then I have a big barrel that I do a King's Mead in, which has 3 different honeys. It's an open fermentation where we're using pollen and then not yeast. And it usually takes about 3 years to make, and it's a 70-gallon batch. Because we're using an open fermentation for it instead of the direct hard yeast. It's more of the old style, old way of making it. And then we ice it down, taking the water content out of it, bringing the alcohol content up. And that way we can even flavor it to different things if we need to, if it's too strong. Because it's going to be like a whiskey. I mean, it's going to be about 23 to 28%. Which is, if you're a good mead drinker, you don't really care. Once you fall down, you have some antiseptic to put in that wound.
Yeah. So now you mentioned to me before we started recording that you're starting to teach some classes around this. Are those online classes or are these in-person classes?
In person. I do have a YouTube thing that we throw out one. This coming up in January, we will be doing 52 meads in a year. to show 52 different meads, the different styles of them, and we'll be doing a mead every week for a year. We're going to be starting that this next year in 2017. But right now I have a couple meads. I show how to do a prepper's mead, where we're going to use powdered honey and powdered peanut butter, like off your prepper's shelf.
Oh, cool.
To make a mead, right? So we have that on there. We do one where it's a basic formula of mead of using a pie filling. So I teach how to take a cherry pie filling and an apple pie filling and mix them together to use just basic syrup and canned goods for making meads. Because that was kind of like the prepper background that I came from, to show that, you don't have to have your fruit orchard. You can get rid of some of this key lime pie filling that's been sitting on your shelf and make a key lime pie mead. Get it out of there, and right? Because who knows how long it's been sitting there. Let's get it off the shelf. So I do a YouTube channel that shows, I think, 3 or 4 just basic mead making. That if you just want to see how it looks, how to do the 1 gallon method. But yeah, we're going to be doing 52 meads next year, every week, so everybody can see the 52 different meads that you can make to have for a year. I mean, that's 52 gallons. I don't know how much mead people drink, but you're looking at parties, gifts for Christmas, weddings. Your bowling buddies are coming over. It's enough that you can have different ones that you can try, see which ones you really like, and then you can make bigger 5 gallon or 12 gallon or 55 gallon batches of it that you want. The larger the batch, the longer it takes. But right now, I was just in Colorado last week doing one, and we had a couple people come over, and it was for a meadery that's getting a cannabis license so they can make a CBC oil mead in Colorado. So they just did one. I'm having one in October 15th in Colorado. I'm doing one in Ohio here in October. I'm doing one in Texas at the end of October. So a lot of people kind of just like bring me in to specialize on some of the stuff that they want. I have just little brewing events for a local brew club here in Wyoming that people come and, as they're brewing and stuff, I'll show them how to make a mead in 30 minutes, right? While you guys are sitting here and waiting, this guy says, let me show you, we'll do this 30-minute mead. And we do some stuff like that. Most of the classes, though, are people bring me in to teach beekeeping. And if I'm going to one in Ohio here that's going to be pretty cool, we're going to go set up his apiary. It's going to be his first one. And during the courses of the guy learning the setup and stuff, he has people come over to take the class that is paid. And we're going to throw in mead making as one of the products. Sometimes when we do those classes, we also teach you how to make lip balms and stuff like that. But the big one is people, now that you showed us how to set the beehives, Michael, and how we're getting our honey, let's make some liquor. Right. So that's basically the next step is to make the liquor.
So here's a super random question, and you brought it up with the cannabis. What happens when bees get their pollen from cannabis?
Well,
not their pollen, the nectar.
Cannabis is an open pollination. Its flower is not necessarily a flower like a daisy.
Oh, okay.
Right. If it's getting anything from the cannabis plant that would be sugar content, it would not be anything hallucinogenic or the medical value such as the THC or the CBC oil that people are using. That's all done by taking the cannabis plant and adding heat to it. You bring it to a certain temperature that activates it. Most of the time, like the bees that get into any marijuana plants or anything, they're basically taking the sticky nectar from it, and they're making a product called propolis, which is a bee glue. And it's just like tree sap. They're just taking tree saps and stuff to make a bee glue. That most of your cannabis and stuff would not be a floral plant with a huge nectar flow.
Okay.
If you had a field of cannabis and 2 or 3 Russian sage plants, you'd probably see more bees at the Russian sage plants than you would see a whole field of cannabis, because there's just not enough sugar nectar flow or anything in those type of plants. And what we're doing with the CBC oil is that basically we're taking and heating it up with the honey and infusing it to get the release of the CBC oil or the THC that can be blended in to make the alcohol. And they're using it for the medical purpose for pain relief and sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
The alcohol thins out your blood and then puts that stuff directly into your bloodstream to where it's fast and effective. And that's what they're using it for, is for the medical release.
I gotcha. So, Michael, how do people get in touch with you? How can they find out, for people that want to do the in-person classes, how can they find out about that and pester you with all kinds of questions about which yeast and which honey and all these other fun and exciting things?
Well, as always, man, multimedia and the Facebook is the largest way to get a hold of me. That if you look at Michael Jordan Beekeeping or AB Friendly Company on Facebook, you'll probably see classes and events that we're listing all the time. If you want to just email me to get like, hey, are you going to be in our area, or what would it take for you to come, or I have a couple questions, it's ABEEFRIENDLYCOMPANY@gmail.com. So it's AB Friendly Company @gmail.com. All one word, spell it all out. You can get a direct link from our webpage, which is abfriendlycompany.com. And it says contact, and it's just going to go right to that Gmail anyway. All you do is you can ask us any types of questions. We're more than willing to help. If you want to find out by classes, we're able to tell you this is probably where you want to look, where are you at, where are you located. Would you like to have one? Basically, if you fly me in, put me up, and you buy the product and kick me a little cash for my time, I'll probably fly in and I'll do a lot of stuff with you and teach you not only beekeeping, mead making, but hell, I'll even grab a shovel and a hoe and help you maybe dig your raised beds. So,
yeah, cool, man. Well, awesome. Yeah. Well, Michael, as always, dude, I appreciate you and love having you on the show. It's always fun to hear from you, and you're making me want to go make some mead now, man.
Man, I hope so. Like I said, when I was reaching out to you, I was like, man, the last time I talked to those cats, I was like having a super awesome day. Right. And I was just like, I haven't reached out to Aaron in a while. And then when I called you, he goes, man, I was just thinking about you, dude. And I was like, yeah, man, what a coincidence. It was just that mind thought of good guys and a good time.
Exactly. Well, dude, as always, thanks for coming on. And man, we'll have to have you on again to talk more about your adventures with mead and bees and everything else.
Right on. Thanks, Aaron. And you guys have a blessed time at that massive horde out there. Keep your ears to the phone, man, because you never know when Aaron will give you a call.
True story. Remember to help ITRH keep the lights on and get great membership benefits. Visit itrh.net. Again, that's itrh.net to help keep the show safe and sound that helps keep you safe and sound. Show notes, links to connect with Michael Jordan, and other resources are available at intherabbithole.com/E188. And with that, we wrap up episode number 188 from the Lone Star State. Till next time, stay safe and sound.